Hello children, you're welcome to this segment of the program. It is mathematics time, and that means it is time to have some fun. Today, we will continue our discussion on angles in a triangle. Today, let me share with you the objective of today's lesson. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to find missing angles in a triangle using the knowledge of properties of the triangles, and also using the knowledge of the sum of angles in a triangle, and also using the sum of angle on a straight line. In our last lesson, I gave you some assignment. Now what I'm going to do is that rather than give you the solution to these exercises, I'm going to take each problem of the exercises and use them as our examples for today's lesson. But before we go into that, in our last lesson, I was able to show you that the three angles inside a triangle, when we add them together, we will always get 180. But in case you've forgotten about this, I will just demonstrate it for you again. I'm going to bring in a triangle here, and this is just an arbitrary triangle, any triangle. And I label the angles A, B, C. The question is, if I had A, B, C together, what will the answer be? To show you that this sum of the three angles will give us 180 degrees, I will bring in a parallel line to any of the sides. And I decide to introduce that line parallel to the one on top, the one that connects A and C together. So I bring it below. Now, this forms the shape Z on this side. And you will recall that angles inside the Z shape, we call them alternate angles. And alternate angles are always equal. That is, the angle inside the Z and the angle outside the Z are the same thing. So if this is A, then automatically this is A. This shape is an inverted Z. The same principle applies. The angle inside the Z will be the same as the angle outside the Z. So if this is C on the inside, then on the outside we'll have a C. So now something interesting happens here. C, B, and A, they form exactly a semicircle. Now if you recall from our previous lessons, when a line starts right at the center, it rotates round the circle. You get how many degrees? 360 degrees. Now if it goes halfway round the circle, you get what? 180 degrees. Good job, you. And this shows that if I move from this starting point, I move through A, and I move through B, and I move through C, everything will be 180 degrees, which means that A plus B plus C is 180 degrees. But this A is here, right inside. The A outside is also inside. The C outside is also inside. And B is also inside. So inside the triangle now, I have A, B, and C also equaling 180 degrees. So what this is saying is that any triangle that you have, all the angles inside will always give you 180 degrees by the time you had them together. Now this is a very, very important mathematical point. I want you to hold it in your left hand as we go on this journey. Moving on, you will recall that this is the first problem of your assignment. The question says, find the missing angle in the diagram. So inside this triangle, I have 61 on the upper part, 61 degrees. I have 71 degrees as one of the angles below. I also have X. Now I do not know what X is. We will go with the problem solving approach. If you remember the problem solving approach, we have to first ascertain what we want to find, then look at what we have, then we formulate a plan, and then we carry out the plan and we check our results. So we'll begin with, what do we want to find? Going back into the triangle, we see that we want to find angle X. So we write that out. What I want to find is X. Do not be scared of the shape. Do not be scared of all the numbers. Just stick with what you know. And what you know is, what I want to find is X. But what do I know as a principle to work with? All these numbers should not scare you. Stick with what you know. And what you know from our previous slide is that all the three angles inside a triangle must give you what when we had them together? Must give you 180 degrees. So don't worry about, oh, X, oh, 71, oh, so just add them together. You must always get 180 degrees. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So you see here that we've written out x, the first angle, plus 71, the second angle, plus 61, the third angle. Everything must be equal to 180 degrees. It's now our job to find x. So our plan is, this is an equation, and we have talked about equations and how to solve them under open sentences. So perhaps we solve this equation and we'll get a value for our x, and that's the plan exactly. So we just solve it. So remember, the first step is always to rewrite the equation, and the next step is to identify the terms. In this case, the terms are x plus 71 plus 61. The next thing is to rearrange and bring like terms together. Now, on the right side of the bridge, you have number. On the left side, you have number and letters. And I have hinted you that it is better to bring all the numbers to the right and leave the letters on the left. We will do just that, remembering that when a number crosses the bridge, the sign will change. As a result, plus 71 here goes and becomes minus 71, and plus 61 goes minus 61. Now, I'll give you 10 seconds to merge this, compute this, and tell us what the final answer will be. X, of course, will come down. There is nothing to merge with x. So your 10 seconds are up now. And by the time you subtract 71 and 61 from 180, you will get 48. Let us check. We are claiming that the third angle is 48. Add 48, the first angle, 71 and 61. You will discover, my friend, that your final answer is 180 degrees. So the whole process is really very simple. Add all the three angles and you will get 180. If there is a missing angle, then solve the equation. Now I'm going to give you one of this same type for you to attempt. You have 30 seconds. Begin. Find the missing angle in the diagram below. Your time starts now. Eyes on me. I believe you've gotten the answer. Let's just quickly run through it and see how it is done. We begin by asking, what do we want to find? We know that in this triangle, the first one here is 44 degrees, the second angle is 67 degrees, but the third one is F, and the question says find the missing angle. F is the one we don't know, so what we want to find is angle F. Now, what do we know? We know that if we had all the three angles, this F that we don't know, 67 and 44, by the time we add them together, we will get 180 degrees. So now that we know this, what is the plan? Our plan is to solve this equation. So we're going to do just that to find our F. Now you have F plus 67 plus 44. Identify the terms. F is one term, 67 is one, plus 67 is another term, plus 44 is another term. The next thing you want to do is to rearrange and bring the numbers over to the right side of the bridge. And by so doing, you must change their signs. You must never forget this. So on the right side now we have 180, then plus 67 on the left becomes minus 67 on the right. Plus 44 on the left becomes minus 44 on the right. So on the right you have 180 minus 67 minus 44, and on the left you bring your F down. So you just merge this, and I'm sure that you got 69. For this, you deserve a chair. Now we'll move on to another one of a different type. Problem 2 says, find the missing angle in the diagram below. And we have a triangle where we just have one angle shown, and that angle is K on the inside. But outside the triangle, you have angle 105. Now, we cannot use the knowledge that the three angles in a triangle add up to 180. Why? Because we don't know the remaining two angles on the inside. So we have to work with what we know. But what we can easily observe here is that if I start from one end of the triangle and I move through the K angle, and I continue and I move through the 105 angle, I end up forming a semicircle. Now this semicircular angle is very important, you might recall. I will jolt your memory A full circle is how many degrees? Is 360 degrees. Now, a semicircle, half of that is what? Is 180 degrees, which means that if I move K angle and 105 angle, I will have moved 180 degrees. Again, if I move angle K and continue and move another 105 degrees, in total, I will have moved 180 degrees, which means that K and 105 together gives us 180 degrees. And this is a very important concept in mathematics. This is what we call angle on a straight line. Don't confuse it with this angle on the outside and the other angle and say they are on a straight line. Why? Because if you try to form a semicircle that way, there will be no center. So angle on a straight line is the one where you can find a center and the two angles are formed at a point. You just draw your semicircle over that. All the angles within that semicircle will add up to 180 because the semicircular angle is 180 degrees. Now, using the knowledge that K and 105 is 180 degrees, we can tackle this problem. We begin with what we know, and what we want to find rather is K. But what we know now is that angle K plus angle 105 together form the semicircular angle, and that gives us 180 degrees. So K plus 105 gives us 180 degrees, and that is what we know. So, but what's the plan? Well, the plan is, since we have an equation, and we have been taught how to solve equations, then we solve the equation, knowing fully well that when we solve the equation, we will have a value for K. So let's proceed. The first thing to always do is to rewrite and then identify the terms. The terms here are K plus 105, and then on the right side, 180 degrees. So, like Uncle Agbaji has told us, we bring all the numbers to the right side and leave the letters on the left side. So taking 105 to the right, or plus 105 now becomes minus 105. So on the right I have 180 minus 105. On the left I'm still left with K. So I just bring that down and then I merge terms. 180 minus 105. That gives me 75. So let's check. If I had 75 and 105 together, will it give me the semicircular angle, which is 180? You add that. You will see that 105 plus 75 gives you 180 degrees. So K is actually 75. Problem 3 says, find the missing angles in the diagram. And the angles that we're told to find is angle M and angle N. And there is no other angle on the inside of the triangle, so we just know M and N, and the third angle is not indicated. But outside the third angle, you have 78 degrees. That is, 78 degrees forms a semicircle with the third angle that we do not know. So, to solve a problem of this nature, you might start from what you know, and that is 78 degrees, and find the one that is linked to it. So let's go. Solution. What I want to do is that I want to name this angle. I'll just give it a name by myself. I'll call it angle P. Now that represents the third angle in the triangle. Now what can I see? What can I observe from here? I want to find M and N, these two angles. But what do I know? I know that if I add M, N, and this angle that I have called P, if I add them together, all of them must give me 180. Now this is looking formidable. I don't want you to be frightened. Just write what you know. Don't be scared that, M plus N, hey, I don't understand M plus N. No, don't worry about that. You will see how we're going to solve this, and you will realize that it is really very simple. So write the three angles. M plus N plus P is 180. That is for the inside of the triangle. Now for the outside, you know that this 78 on the outside and the one that I've called P, they form a semicircle at the same point. They form a semicircle, and that means that both of them, 78 and P, will be 180 because they form a semicircle. And that is why you have 78 plus P is 180. That's another thing that I know. Now, you can see now that this one will be easy for you to solve. But before we solve that, there's also something we can observe about this triangle. Before I tell you, I want you to observe this triangle. There are some markings. And what does this marking, what does it mean? If you remember your properties of triangle very well, what does this marking, this one and this one, what do they mean? Well, I'll remind you. They mean that this triangle is an isosceles triangle, and the angles at the end of the lines are equal, and the angles at the end are also equal, which means that at the end of this line you have M, and at the end of this line you have N. So that means that M and N are actually the same angle. So if you can find N, you already know M. That's what it means. So we'll write that out. M is equal to N because we have an isosceles triangle and the two angles at the end of the two lines that are equal, the two angles are also equal. Knowing this very well, we now proceed with a plan. And what would the plan be? See this one that I know, I can solve this one. I know the one on the outside. I can get the one on the inside. This is modeled after our second example. So we just quickly solve this one and find P. So find the straight line angle, use it to find the missing interior angles. Yes, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to solve this 78 plus P. Together they form a semicircle, and that means they form 180 degrees. Now, rearranging, 78 comes to the right side, you have minus 78. Don't forget that the sign for 78 is plus. Now P comes down on the left side. So on the right side you have 180 minus 78. By the time you subtract that, you get 102. So P is equal to 102. So I'm just going to write it there. And I will not confuse myself anymore because I want to do away with this place. I will just write it. The moment I get the answer to P, I will put it there, 102. Moving on, I will now come back to, because now I know the three angles inside the triangles. Inside the triangle, rather. I know the three angles inside the triangle. 102 degrees is one, M is the other one, and N is the other one. And if I add the three of them together, I will get what? 180 degrees. So I will do just that. 102, this one, plus M, the other angle, plus N, the third angle. Everything together must give me 180 degrees. Now, this is still looking formidable, but you should not be afraid. The whole process of solving mathematics is moving forward. Get to the next step. And if you get to a point where you can't proceed, look deeper into the question and see if there is something you're missing. Always take a step back. Now at this point, this is looking formidable. M and N, what do I want to do with both of them? I can only find one variable. Now remember that M and N are the same thing. Remember that M and N are the same thing. So for starters, leave M and N to one side and take the numbers to the other side. At least, like I said, keep moving forward. So now, by coming here, we have moved a step ahead. We now have M plus N on this side is equal to 180 minus 102 on this side. This one can be solved. But what is M and N? We do not know. Then, recalling the fact or remembering the fact that M and N are the same thing. So I will just write, I will write M instead of writing N. N is still the same thing as M anyway. So I will just write M2. Again, Taye is the same thing as Hassan. So I will just write Hassan instead of Taye. So since N and M are the same thing, I bring one M down. For the next one, instead of me to write N, I will just write M since they are the same thing. Now this is easier for me to add because they are like terms. And I'll do just that. On this side I have 2M because M plus N, 1 mango plus 1 mango equals 2 mangoes. And on this side, 180 minus 102 gives me 78. Now I'm just going to divide by 2. 2 cancels 2, I'm left with M. When you divide 78 by 2, you get 39. So I know M. M is now 39. Since I already know M, I automatically know N. M is 39, so N will also be 39. And that is our final answer. So we'll get P equals to 102, and then you have 39, you have 39. I want you to check this by yourself. 102 plus 39 plus 39, you will get 180 degrees. Now I want you to apply all that you have learned today in solving the problems that are on the board. Copy them and tackle them during your leisure time. I will now hand you over to Uncle Popo for the general studies lesson. Till I come your way next time, remain wonderful mathematicians.